Welcome and hi everybody to the Sing to Thrive podcast. My name is Julia Williamson.
And I'm Maddy Monacelli, and together we are the mother-daughter duo of Sing to Thrive.
Today we're thrilled to welcome Natalie Brown, a talented composer, educator, sound healing practitioner and multi-instrumentalist who has travelled the world performing, recording and teaching music. As the founder of Sounds Heal Studio, Natalie brings a wealth of expertise as the lead teacher for the Americas with the Sound Healing Academy, as well as Nada Yoga, Reiki, craniosacral therapy, Qigong, acupressure, and advanced biofield analysis. Her mission is to share the transformative power of sound healing, empowering others to use sound for self-care, personal growth, and holistic well-being. Welcome, Natalie.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really wonderful to be with both of you. Thank you for having me.
Amazing.
You're welcome.
Let's dive right in. So you were classically trained from the age of 4.
Yes.
Where did that start? Was that, I saw on your website it was with violin. Is that what kind of kick-started your musical journey?
Oh, absolutely. I think the violin, it's almost like I came into this world already knowing how to play it. It's just quite natural, and starting at the age of 4, right? I mean, you're still kind of developing motor skills and language. So I feel very grateful that I started so young and got that foundation. And I did learn a very kind of regimented classical tradition. I was actually quite competitive. And I've had to do my own healing on that side of music. But yes, I'm so grateful for that. And violin is forever my hobby, career, and passion. And now it just looks a little bit different. But yes, the violin is my first love. And now I use a lot of other instruments, but I still feel, because of that early connection, the violin in a way has been my voice until I started using my voice. It's been the best way to express myself and work through things because I've been holding it most of my life. And it's brought me a lot of confidence as a very extremely shy child. If I had that violin, confidence. So It's been a great tool for me. Yeah.
And was that something your parents saw in you? I would say at the age of 4, they would have thought, wow, she's a natural. Let's get her an instrument. Is that how that evolved?
Yeah. I have a little bit interesting history with sound because it was discovered age 3 into age 4 that I had significant hearing problems and infections and earaches and pain and things like that. And it was discovered that I had about 80% hearing loss when I was very, very young. And so had to have surgeries and all kinds of things. So it's interesting that it was thought to get me into music so young. My brother and I both started music young. I think that was just kind of something they thought would be good, which I'm grateful for. But I have to say, I do remember the shift in hearing and holding that violin, going from everything being really muffled, kind of like you're underwater. That was my initial hearing experience with my ear issues, to like a whole body experience. My first experience with the violin was actually like well, it's an interesting instrument to hold and play, right? You feel the vibration, you feel the subtleties, and that's part of my connection with it, I think. And then the ears opening up, my hearing improved, and it was a whole body experience, like coming to the top of a lake, you know. And so it's pretty profound thinking of those beginnings. And I'm very grateful. I'm not exactly sure why the violin was chosen for me, but feels right.
I
Has
noticed
been
with
right.
my sister was an amazing instrumentalist growing up, but I remember Dad handing us both ukuleles when we were little, but I had so much trouble with ukulele, but singing was such a natural thing for me. Whereas my sister was such a natural on the ukulele, and it was at 7 that was at 4, and then at 7 she took up the violin, and she has got the best pitch. Like, she's got really good,
Yeah.
a fantastic ear for music, and she's an amazing musician.
I find
So I
it
think, yeah,
fascinating.
it's amazing when you training that auditory recall so young with these beautiful tones, and how healing that would be.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I find it fascinating because at this in the Steiner education I got growing up in primary school, they everyone it's compulsory to do violin or cello for 6 years.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I've always given, and I chose violin because I didn't want to carry around a big cello.
Yeah.
Smaller than the instrument, so I can't take that on the school bus. But yeah, just I find that fascinating with your hearing. It's like, because it's quite close to your ear when you're playing violin, so it probably,
Yes.
yeah, that
And
would
I'm
have
still quite sensitive to it, I think. Just in general, I'm sensitive to sound. And I just do wonder if it's about that kind of switch that happened in my hearing and starting violin around that age. Another thing I want to point out that I'm really grateful for, the particular training that I took, Suzuki violin method, at that age, if you kind of do that early childhood training, it's play by ear first.
been.
It's play by ear, right? So as a classical musician, I didn't rely on sheet music. So I learned to play, I learned to make things up, I learned to improvise, and not rely and really kind of almost rigidly play something perfect. And so I'm really grateful for that start. I think it's
Yeah.
opened a lot of possibilities for me.
And
Yeah.
I think even I only did violin for 3 years, but and we did singing all the time as well with Steiner. But I honestly, because harmonies came so easy for me, and I've always, violin's been my testament of why I think I can hear harmonies so naturally. And I
Right.
always think of that from a young age, just playing violin and we didn't, I don't know if we used that method because I do remember having to learn sheet music, but we definitely didn't do all sheet music. And I wouldn't know how to play violin now. I kind of gave up on it. Maybe I should retake it
Yeah.
up after this conversation. Um,
I think that can I just interject there? I think the gift for people just listening to what you just shared is that, oh, it's actually better to just improv and to make up songs. I mean, I definitely agree with that because that's
Yeah.
me. I cannot read music. I get dyslexic when I look at it, dots on the page. It's like my brain is not wired for that. And even when I started doing piano lessons, I had to do everything by ear because we had the music put in front of us, and I would look at that and they'd be explaining it to me. It would be just going, I honestly believed I was stupid. I couldn't do it. So I was remembering where that note was, and from sound, auditory recall, right? Oh yeah, that's up, that's down. And now with what I'm teaching, because we run singing circles, I'm so good at remembering the pattern of a
Right.
melody, and it has to be from that, or that would be a huge part in it
Yeah.
because I got good at, oh yeah, that goes up 3, then it comes down 2, and then, oh yeah.
Yeah,
But
muscle
I think it's
memory,
a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and I think that has also been part of my healing, getting into sound healing, is rather than how perfect can I play something, because I did, audition and play in symphonies and all these really phenomenal, powerful things as a youngster. Um, but then now it's switched to why? Why am I playing these notes? What's the purpose? What energy is behind it, right? The intentional piece. And that's been extremely healing for me as a musician, really profound for my own, maybe self-meditative playing, right? This can be the voice or any instrument, is before you strike a bowl, before you hum, what is a positive vibration that you can add to it? What are you trying to shift or transform? So that's really been the biggest shift as a musician, and I think it can be really powerful for musicians. And simplicity, right? I could play a Mozart concerto right now, but maybe I just really want to hold on to one note and follow it by just this amazing silence, So it's not about being fancy or intricate, but why?
Yeah, the
Why?
intention
What's the
behind it.
purpose? Yeah.
And I think, I mean, because that's what we do in our singing circles as well. We always finish with an improvisation like practice essentially. And it's so foreign for people to
Yeah.
improvise and like take a risk in that way. And it develops trust when you can do that. It develops trust in yourself, and it develops trust in life as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a really beautiful intention to go in with it. And it helps
Yeah.
to spark that creative brain as well and your creative spirit.
That's right. Like, what would you sing or play? What sounds like joy?
Mhm.
Or if you really want to work out some stress and anxiety, you'd probably sing or play differently, right? So using sound to shift how you feel and just
Yeah,
notice,
to express,
right? To
really
express,
express
right?
it, like get that
Yeah.
energy out, get it moving. Yeah, huge gift to allow yourself, give yourself permission to actually
Yeah.
just do that and not judge. Because when we're judging how we feel, or, you might be having a bad day and you're feeling cranky or whatever, it's instead of judging that, it's like, right, let's just move this through my body and get it out and create the sound and movement. I believe are the fastest ways to uplift our mood, shift energy. So it's pretty amazing. You have traveled heaps. Tell us a little bit about your travels and what you discovered on that with the sound healing side of things.
Absolutely, yeah. A couple highlights. Yeah, I've been very lucky to travel mostly as a musician, but also for studies. And a couple examples. One of the first times I experienced an understanding of sound that was different somewhere else is I went to graduate school in Scotland. I have some ancestry there. I love Scotland. I've just always enjoyed visiting. And it was just a time in my life that I'm a learner. I'm a forever learner. I come from an academic family. I've kind of leaned away from that. But at the time, I was going there to study fiddle traditions, how it's used in education, and it was a degree in ethnology and folklore. The reason I mention that is because what was so profound for me there that we only really have light variations of here in the States is in Scotland, if I had my fiddle, right, it's called a fiddle there, not a violin, of course, I just instantly would make friends and community. Music is such a thread and a common thread there. And even more powerful is you would be anywhere and someone could sing you a ballad or play you a fiddle tune about this hill over here where a historic event happened. They just have such an identity of place, of culture, and songs weave through it. Songs and words and language and melodies are just woven through their understanding of place. And we have some examples of that in the States, but I wouldn't say it's as common. So I mean, I've traveled to study since I've gotten more into sound healing as well. I went to India, Rishikesh, to study Nada yoga, and got my teacher training there, which is the yoga of sound. And as anybody goes down the rabbit hole of holistic arts and healing arts, you find these things that you're like, wait, what's that? I have to go learn about that. So I did, and a 6-week training course in Nada Yoga, the yoga of sound. I was like, what's that? And then even more fortunate was I got to go to Nepal, uh, Kathmandu and that region immediately after, um, and experience so many bowls and kind of the origin of the Himalayan bowls. So those are a couple of examples uh, of some
Wow.
sound experiences in different parts of the world. Yeah.
So what is Nada yoga? How does a session of that look?
Yeah, Nada yoga. There's modern and ancient versions, and Nada yoga is one of the ancient yogic paths. And actually, all traditional yogic paths have sound practices, but just a lot of those didn't come over to the West when yoga got popular. It was mostly the movement, the asanas. But Nada yoga, was originally found in the Rig Veda, which is ancient sacred texts that, were written down, but these traditions were practiced orally, way before that. So 30, 35 centuries ago. And Nada yoga, I guess, could be best described by looking at the word nod and nada. Nod means sound, to roar, to thunder, to cry. But it also means stream. So that's really the object of meditation and Nada yoga, the sound stream. And using the sound stream to connect the individual to cosmic consciousness, right? Yoga, the union. And yeah, I got goosebumps because, I had so many amazing experiences in India and then came back and have taught it several times as well. And the other way to look at Nada yoga is the active participation in sound. So making music, learning chants, kirtan and things like that. I got to learn how to play the sitar and the tablas and all these amazing things. But then there's the receptive Nada yoga. That would be best described as deep listening and listening and meditating on the sound, which is the anahat nada, the unstruck sound. And so that would be just the cosmic hum of the universe, unstruck sound. So any sound that we make, my hands clapping together or striking a bowl or even our voice, that's a hot nod, struck sound, so external sounds. So deep Nada yoga is tuning in to your inner sacred sounds that connect you to the cosmic sacred sounds. So that's a little bit about, what
Oh,
Nada yoga
I'm
is, but it's a
already
big
in bliss.
subject.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
feels beautiful just listening to you explain it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling into it. It's like, I'm sure we've done aspects of that anyway within what we do.
Yeah.
I've sung a lot of kirtan myself, and
Yeah.
I know the bliss that you feel afterwards. And sometimes, instead of, it really energizes me actually, kirtan. Like if
Yes.
I used to do gigs and then I'd come home and I couldn't sleep, I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
really alive and energized, but really attuned to all the sounds. And I find that with the music and also with vocal toning. When you use your voice to vocal tone and hum, and when you finish and you drop into silence, you can hear so many different frequencies. And for me, I get so activated and blissed out. It's just like, yeah, I could just, and that would have to be a similar, like a form of Nada yoga, like where you're just, well, you're creating sound and then you're sitting in the stream afterwards, aren't you? Of the, the vibrations that are flowing through the body. So,
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think that could be a missing component of a lot of what people understand when they get into sound healing. They think of the sound, right? The sound, they're making these beautiful crystal bowls. I mean, it is all very powerful and therapeutic. But I wonder if maybe the silence, the stillness, the pause, is actually where we integrate the deepest, right? That amazing, you have these amazing sounds, a kirtan or a gong playing, and then there's a fade into silence. That silence afterwards, there's something happening,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost
And
like your all the cells in your body are integrating with the frequency of the universe. I'm lucky where I live, just 2 minutes around the corner. There's a Kundalini yoga studio, which is a good friend of ours, and I remember Mum taking me to classes there when I was a teenager. And I assume it's probably similar in the sense that we do chant and
yeah,
sound within the kriyas as well.
right.
But she has a big gong, and you get a gong bath at the end of the session, and you just get to lie there and just receive and go into the silence at the end. And I always find that I get really inspired ideas when I do that. It's like, okay, I've gone into the practice of stilling my mind throughout the session. There's lots of breath work. And then all of a sudden, when you're in that silence, it's like you can tap into your higher self, essentially, or tap into the other frequencies within the universe and messages that could be beneficial for you at that time, or like
Yeah.
what's going on. And I always come away with some new inspired idea after a session.
yeah, I'm
Right.
hearing
It's
the
that
word
space.
space. Yes, like there's more space for the divine, for that wisdom to come through. That's what I was getting as you were speaking.
I think nature shows us that, I think we're missing a bit of that. And I suppose the way our society is set up now, nature shows us pause in literally everything, the space between a bird call and the response, the call and response, the ebb and flow of an ocean wave. I think it's a reminder to get closer to these natural teachings from nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So you have so many offerings, even things like craniosacral therapy, which I am also blessed to have experienced a lot of throughout my life. But even Qigong and acupressure, and Reiki, how do you weave all of these different elements together in your practice?
That is one aspect I love about this work, and especially one-on-one work. I will differentiate a group's sound bath, is more for a collective, and in a way, it's more set up as a group intention, everybody's experiencing. But for a one-to-one or individual session, you can individualize it, personalize it based on the person's needs. It could be fully sounds, and we can get more into the different tools and why you might choose something. But as soon as I decided to make this big step and do sound healing full time, I was a public school teacher for 14 years previous to that. But when I made that leap, and actually during the last years of being a high school teacher, I realized how related these modalities are. They're just a little bit different tool, a little bit different language for really the same thing, which is healing, energy work, energy medicine, vibrational tools. I mean, they all are. So they're different ways in. And there are protocols in sound healing and actually most of these modalities, but a protocol basically is a one size fits all approach. And that's kind of missing the intuition piece. So having these other background modalities, these other things I can access, help me maximize the session and what does that person need? So even though the majority of my sessions probably are 80% sound work, I can do some Reiki at the beginning or end. Or acupressure is actually very related to working with weighted tuning forks on the body, right? You can introduce vibration rather than, a finger or even acupuncture needle. You can introduce vibration to a meridian point
Mm.
So they're all related. So the learning never ends. I'm always finding different ways and leaning into what my clients need and just what I'm fascinated by, just staying curious.
And fully connected to that intuition when you're working with someone, because often it's in the moment. And I loved that you said protocols are a one size fits all,
Yeah.
which I've always had an issue with because they become so rigid. And that was always the thing with why I loved past stage clearing and healing so much, because that's a modality that was channeled by Maggie Landman back in the 90s. And there's set steps you do, but it's so open to, it's not rigid. And I think even with singing, I find that whatever's the perfect sound or the perfect song, or it will come to me, even when I'm teaching. I rarely have, like, I know that I want to do this type of song, like a round, a harmony, a call and respond. I always have like a little recipe of what I bring into a class. But depending on who shows up, because you never know, I'm then intuiting on my feet, okay, what's the best thing for this group? And I think that from experience, and you just receive, if you stay relaxed enough, you just receive the insight or the intuition around, oh yeah, that'd be a good song for this group. And then, so there's no rigid, oh, we have to do it this way or we have to do it that way. Would you agree, Madeline?
Definitely. Yeah. And sometimes, you go in with a plan, but I think it's kind of like in this work as well, it's about being open to the possibility that the plan can change, and that's okay. And you got
It
to
always
listen to
does.
your intuition. You've got to listen to your intuition.
It
when
always
you're
does.
instrument,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, be flexible. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Fluid.
another really good aspect for me too, getting into this work. I mean, that's really the reason I decided to make the leap and do this full time, which I'm so glad I did. I mean, sound healing has blossomed more than ever over the past 10 years since I've been doing this. But coming from a discipline just like with the violin, I'm so glad I had the foundation. I'm so glad I had the trainings in sound healing. But then you get to a point where you just let it go. And that's when the intuition comes in. That's when the messages come in. That's when you're doing like Tai Chi for a whole session. You're just in meditation while you're offering rather than thinking about which protocol should I pick. And what I will say for listeners that aren't that familiar with sound healing and using the sound tools is, in a way, it can be very much like sonic Reiki. Instead of scanning and feeling energy with your hands, using the sound tools, you're amplifying somebody's energy with sound. So you can listen to what somebody sounds like. And eventually you'll understand why your instruments are responding and kind of learn their language, right? If you use a Himalayan bowl like this bowl and strike it and just work all around someone, if you know what the bowl normally sounds like when nobody else is around, eventually you are going to, oh, this is inflammation. This person has a lot of anxiety right now. Your instruments will actually respond to somebody else's energy. And that's when intuition and those listening skills,
Being
but
attuned to
just
that.
the sensitivity comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being attuned to your instruments in that way too.
Yeah. Right.
That connection with them as well. And connection to the space and being really present in those moments when you're holding space for someone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Holding space.
Absolutely.
It's such probably one of the most important aspects of this work is holding space for people, having that container, that safe, heart-filled container, where people can let go. And number one benefit, relax. Just to allow
Yeah,
people to relax for a period of time is a massive benefit. Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely. And that was a few weeks ago because we've got our teacher training coming up for the singing, the Sing to Thrive method that we teach. And one of the biggest things is helping people to relax into and how to hold space in a really effective way. Because ultimately your energy should be fed too. Like it ends up being a meditation where you're not actually thinking about them. You'll pick up if you need to pick up on something, but you're literally just getting yourself so grounded and so in the zone and so feeling into what needs to be said here in this moment. And I think holding space is a real skill that can only truly come from experience, where you're doing it time and time again. Then all of a sudden you're just able to drop in and hold space for yourself first. If you can't hold space for yourself, you can't hold space for someone else. Not really deep space. So I think that's fascinating.
And I think everyone has their own like tools they use to even get into that zone of holding space, because it is dropping into presence and embodiment. It's like a somatic practice. And I've got a particular visualization that helps me ground down all the elements in my body, and I can feel immediately once I can connect into that space, and I can feel everyone surrounded in it, especially in a group class. But yeah, and it's gotten quicker over the years of doing it. But yeah, everyone will have their own thing that they'll use as a tool to anchor into that energy.
Yeah, it's really important. And I find that to be why this work is mutually healing, right? You're offering to other people, you're helping facilitate their own self-healing. But gosh, just being in that presence, working on being grounded and centered, I mean, you just feel amazing after offering, which, if you're not doing the grounding, you're not holding the space, you're feeling kind of off kilter. Some people get energy fatigue after sessions, right? They've really kind of taken too much on, perhaps. So I'm glad you mentioned that. It's just really so important, that work we do for ourselves if we're going to be giving and offering.
Totally.
Yeah.
Not draining your energy. It's
And
channeling the universe.
What's the saying? You teach what you need to most learn yourself, or something, whatever that saying is. It's like, I can definitely see that in my life. Like, I feel so blessed that even though it's been challenging, it's like, okay, look at where I'm at now, because, I didn't want to go back to corporate work. I wanted to do this singing. I wanted to do the healing work. And it took time, but it also was a practice where even if I wanted to be good at something, I had to look after myself. I had to eat well. Definitely as singers, we need to make sure we're putting the right nutrients in our bodies, because the body is the instrument. Your heart, your connection is what people feel. And I learned that early on. It didn't matter how perfect someone was singing technically, because I did not have the technique down pat. But when I sang, I would always get huge compliments. As a little kid, like, people would come up to me and say, wow, that was amazing. But I was never able to sing really high, or I always felt like I fell short, but I always could sing from my heart. And holding space is dropping in and trusting that you can hold space from your heart, and not be in your head thinking about, what have I got to do here? It's like, nope, just wait. Exactly what needs to happen will come to me. And that's really the practice, I believe. We wanted to ask you about the biofield analysis.
Yes, yeah. The BioWell is really a fascinating instrument. And basically what it's doing, and a lot of different devices do, is reading the photon discharge, so electromagnetic energy discharge, from your fingers. So you put now some devices you put your whole hand kind of on a device and it does a reading. There's aura devices and things like that. But the BioWell is pretty advanced. It gives you a lot of information. You do one finger at a time. It does a reading. and there's a camera that's, taking what's called this photonic discharge and analyzing it. And the meridians are all connected to the fingers, right? And so a biowell analysis, again, is just a device, and run through software can give you a readout of stress, imbalances, your chakras, right? Are your chakras aligned? Are they excess? Low, medium, or high energy in specific meridians, and like where there might be a surplus of energy. Just it gives you a large amount of information, and depending on the practitioner, that's up to you how to use it. Another really cool thing that it does is it's about a 10-minute music meditation. It gives an MP3 for the client to listen to based on where they're experiencing deficiencies. So it kind of fills those areas of need. So I don't use it for everybody. Actually, the majority of people I don't really use that with, but I do use it with people that are part of research programs I'm doing. For example, I am doing a current study on ringing in the ears, tinnitus or tinnitus, and how to help people alleviate that. And it's been a really fascinating study. And so if you're working people progressively for one purpose, it's really good for research and tracking progress. Okay, so where did they start? Where did they end up? Because research is interesting when it comes to sound healing. Now, there's a ton of research when it comes to the benefits of sound, humming, listening, and all that. But sound healing itself, we're at the beginning stages, I think. So I'm participating in a bit of that work. And the biowell can be used for that. It is FDA approved and aspects of that. But otherwise, it just informs people and the client. It gives some clients like that kind of visual readout of where they started and where they end up, right?
Yeah.
With
Gives
the
the brain
tinnitus,
some-
we had.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Sorry. I facilitated a sound healing, well, it's a singing and sound journey last Friday night. And the first half we sing really life affirming songs where I am deliberately triggering people to go back to any past wounds. And we're really trying to help them work through and release limiting beliefs. And then integrating it with the sound healing. And there's one woman that has had tinnitus. And what we noticed was, because we had an agreement where she would put her hand up if it was, if her tinnitus improved. And it was the C note playing it really gently for her that was just helping, because the previous sound session, her tinnitus went. And it was like a miracle for her, but then it came back. And I believe that part of that's due to just her whole nervous system is wired, and there's stress there, right? But I would love for people to know where to go. Like, how can people find out more about that research and information? Because she would really benefit from that, because I can see that that is something where you'd need to test a frequency and see if that worked. And then it'd take quite some time to work through all the different frequencies to see what works.
Yeah, it's an interesting study because, well, ringing in the ears, tinnitus, is interesting in itself because what I'm discovering is what's the underlying cause? That's how you would treat it, right? Was there actually a trauma? Is there inner ear damage, right? It seems like some of the main reasons are chronic stress and a compressed vagus nerve, actually, right? So what's the underlying cause would lead you to what you need to do next. But the study, just to briefly tell you, has 3 different groups of people we're working with. One group, we're doing a tinnitus protocol, It's a weighted tuning fork protocol using acupressure points for tinnitus. There's another one that is more frequency based, like you are saying, where we're basically trying to find frequencies that cancel out or diminish the ringing in the ears. And then the third group of people, we are doing a healing session to hopefully get a bit more to the root cause and, treat them. There's that one size fits all versus the person. So it's been really, really interesting. And I was just thinking earlier today, I've collected so much information and research and how to get that out there. It's not currently something that's published, but the information will be out there soon. And if anybody wants, for example, the weighted tuning fork protocol, which could be acupressure, I'm happy to send that to anybody. So I'll share my contact information.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah.
That is one thing that people could try. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So how long into the study are you, and what are the findings so far? Like what looks like is working the best in this?
Yeah. We are, let's see, when did we start? So we are about 6 months in. There's 12 practitioners doing it. And we're going to do it for a year to gather a lot of information. I'll say the most beneficial so far weighs a little bit towards the weighted tuning fork protocol. Has been showing the highest findings with the personalized session and reducing stress and anxiety to be right up there, which also what's interesting about the tinnitus protocol is it's also for the vagus nerve, like where you're working and where you're stimulating, right? So I think there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on with the study and the implications of it. So yeah, we'll see as we gather the information.
That's exciting. That's really exciting stuff. And with we always go to the root cause first with the past stage clearing and healing. That's what that is, where there's a reaction in the body, where there's energy, going back into the memory of that and really looking at where that began and what belief systems were taken on, being able to express the emotion that's stuck there. And I've done a session with this particular person, and but there's a lot more work. I mean, these things don't happen overnight, and often from childhood we carry them and they're buried deep within us, and it's just in our cells. And the body keeps the score. And also it's the ears. If there's something in the ears, for me straight away I go, well, what are you not listening to? Because everything comes back to the self. Well, what am I not listening to? Why am I got this constant thing that's pulling my attention, trying to get my attention? Please look at me. Please listen to me. So, what would you say about that, Maddy?
Well, in the metaphysical sort of world, according to Annette Noontil in her book, The Body is the Barometer of the Soul, your ears are all about tolerance or intolerance. So it's like, where are you not being tolerant with yourself, and where can you have more compassion for yourself for actions that you have done or not done? That's kind of what the ears represent in her channeled experience. And it's interesting that it could potentially be related to the vagus nerve as the root cause, because just recently, in the last 2 weeks, I've had 5 different private clients come to me with this jaw clicking thing, and where they grind their teeth at night. And it really affects they can't open their mouth because their jaw is so stiff and in pain. And obviously we need to open our mouth when we sing. And I've just been finding it so fascinating. I'm like, I wonder if that's even linked with the vagus nerve, if there's like compression somewhere. Obviously there's potential physical alignment things with the jaw, and craniosacral could even help with that. But yeah, I wonder if there's a deeper layer.
I was going to say, yeah, even alignment things, if you chronically have a vertebrae that goes out of alignment, what's the root cause of that?
Yeah.
right? For example, the atlas vertebrae, the one at the very top, that has to do with overthinking and putting too much pressure on yourself. And so I think a lot of these things are noticing the patterns. If something has gotten to chronic, that's an important time to look into these things that you're talking about. Um, so that's really the direction that my work has gotten into, is long-term transformation. I've seen miracles with people, that quick fix, and it's amazing. But, really the majority of the time, it's just working through the layers um, and watching a progression and having patience and allowing people to eventually dream forth the new. It can take a while. It can't be rushed. Yeah.
Totally.
I've had an experience of a client that would always sing these three notes. He sang well, but then he'd get to this particular area of his voice and always sang off key. And so I did a past stage clearing and healing with him about that. And he went back to childhood where he was really got in trouble from a nun for, singing something incorrectly, and the anger that he had inside him and the humiliation. And he just had the hugest release, and then sat back down at the piano, played the notes, and he sang them. Notes that he could not even hear before. I'd play the note and he'd sing some completely different note. And then I played it and he sang it. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Wow. Yeah. So there's just healing the root cause of what caused him pain, and to take on a belief that just wasn't true,
Isn't there that saying when we were young, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me? Is that the saying? Or is it the other way around?
Because will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. How untrue is that?
No kidding, I know.
Yeah, if you can be your own person, but who is as a child, we're so self-conscious and so empathic to our environment and what's going on around us.
Sensitive.
And we feel it all, we take it personally. So
yeah.
Tips. We would love any tips that you can offer our listeners on what they can do at home. So if they don't have an instrument, but if they were to buy an instrument, what do you recommend would be something really easy to start with?
Sure. So a few tips. My number one tip is, without any instrument, is to do some listening meditations in your environment. And it's a really great way to get into mindfulness and meditation because you have an anchor, right? The sound, what you're listening to. So anybody that has a hard time meditating because you're supposed to quiet the mind, which can be really difficult, just notice sounds, right? Sounds that are close, sounds that are way in the distance. And you're going to realize there's this constant soundscape, your sonic environment. And as you get into energy work, as you work with your voice, as you develop a sensitivity, you are going to be able to work with energy at an even deeper level. So just listening, meditating on sound for a good few minutes will get you more in touch with the sonic environment and the cosmic hum, but also how you react to sounds. Right? We're such a visual society, but we're affected by sounds very deeply all the time. So practicing not labeling sounds as good or bad or annoying, right? Just be with the sounds, And I'm sure, many of your listeners hum, but truly using the voice has everything to do with health and vitality. If you hum, you are balancing the vagus nerve and all the benefits that shows. And it actually forces you to breathe slower. So humming all the time, humming for yourself when nobody else is around, because a big part that I see in the workshops that I teach. We use all these instruments, but when we get to the voice, a lot of people have constrictions or, this kind of insecurity with it. I truly think the most powerful tool that you can use for yourself is your voice, is your own vibration. If you have the ability to breathe, you can use your voice for healing, and you can send that vibration anywhere in need. You can direct your own vibration with healing intent. And then otherwise, you probably already have sound tools at home. You don't need to get the fanciest bowl, but kind of consider what wind chimes you have, or what, shaker or rattle that you have, and consider what that particular vibration or tone could be good for, right? Rattles could be used for clearing energy. A bowl could be a Himalayan bowl, for example, you could just strike it. And like we said earlier, listen to the fade into silence, or use it almost as a summons or point of focus, maybe almost a ritual or creating sacred space before you do a practice. Those are the simplest ways, I think, and most powerful. No need to buy a bunch of instruments and get too fancy. Keep it
I
simple.
love that.
Yeah.
I know, but part of me wants you to play one of those instruments in the background there.
Right.
The double
Yeah.
one looks amazing.
That flute.
I know, and
Mhm.
look, I couldn't agree more. Actually, it was like absolutely, and you've got access to your voice 24/7. You don't have to go and buy anything. It's there. Your voice is there. And feeling it and getting into habits. I'm in a new space at the moment, and it's literally almost in my walkway, but I've got my big crystal bowl. So it makes me sit down every night. I just play it before going to bed. I've got one upstairs, and I just play it before I meditate or stretch. And it doesn't even have to be for that long. Sometimes I'll stay there for ages, and other times it's just like, no, I don't feel like it tonight. I'll just do this. So it's not being too rigid with how we use these instruments also. But every time you do, it's an act of self-love. And that's what heals, because we're being there for ourselves and loving and looking after this vessel that we are inhabiting. And that's really what makes life so joyful, when we're healthy and feeling good. Because really, even though there's a lot of chaos in the world, what we focus on, we manifest. And we're all here creating this new earth, birthing this new reality, and sound is at the forefront. Music, singing, and sound are at the forefront of healing, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
I said in class on Thursday last week, we'd just done our improv and we're having some silence and feeling all the vibrations in our body. And I finished with, they've been saying that sound is the medicine of the future. It's not. It's the medicine of the now. And your voice is the quickest tool that you have access to all the time. So use it. It's like,
Yes.
just that reminder. Every time you use your voice, you're creating a relationship with it. You're creating and developing trust with this expression of your soul. And that is essential for every aspect of our lives as we flow and communicate and express in all these different forms. If we trust our voice, we trust ourselves, and we can trust life so much easier. And
That's right.
It's so powerful.
Yeah, that's right. And not only is it the sound of now, it's almost like we're in a time of remembering, right? Because the voice, a lot of these sound tools go back into antiquity and prehistory.
Exactly.
And we're in a time of need, right? Sound healing is not a trend. It is a need, right? I don't know anybody that doesn't need
Absolutely.
it. And I think really what we're talking about are tools. Again, like you said, there's chaos, and sometimes it can feel like there's so much coming out of the system that we have no control. But it's showing us that we have tools to help build resilience, right? To help remind us how powerful we are. We are so powerful. Our heart is so powerful, and our own vibration, our own gift that we came here with, that's what we need. That's all we need. And everybody needs your vibration, and it can have a ripple effect and help so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And pairing that with nature, like you said before, listening, being in nature and just listening to all the different sounds. And then even adding to that, like being more playful and remembering that we are the creators of our reality, and we can reclaim our joy and to focus on what brings us joy, not focus on the drama, because there's always drama. You can find it anywhere, but you can really find peace and harmony within. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And I did want to mention, sorry, Maddy, I just wanted to mention the sound here. We're doing a sacred sounds journey in the UK. We're doing the ley lines, singing the ley lines and sacred sites through England and Scotland. So I'm sending, oh my God, can you imagine, Maddy? If we had Natalie with us, that would be amazing.
Yeah, the Layla and the energy there. I mean, whenever I've been there, it's for me, Scotland in particular, definitely places in England. It's like deja vu every time. It's like I've been there many times. The energy is so powerful. Um, but the land and the energy it contains. Yeah, I'm so excited for you. I can't even imagine. So is that going to be voice and voice work and song in these power
Yeah,
centers? And
Yeah.
yeah.
singing, vocal toning, and we're teaming up with, I call him the word alchemist. He understands language back to front and how we create word spells and power sounds. He's just this knows the history, so much wisdom and so much connection to the land, and so much work on himself and helping other people. And they've done a lot of work on these power sites, and I feel we're so blessed. I mean, my heritage is Norway, Scotland, and they know where to take us, where the crowds don't normally go. So I feel, yes, we are so blessed, and this is going to be very healing for, I mean, my own ancestral imprints, or ours, because Madeline's my daughter, but that, as well as just being with a group of like-hearted souls that are there for the intention of healing, upliftment, joy. It'll be
Of
great fun.
ourselves and the planet too. Yeah.
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 Right. Right. That'll be so powerful. I mean, the land will bless you. I just know it. I can't even say how excited I am for you. And yeah, wow.
Yeah.
My
Brilliant.
legs just got
Really
activated when you said the land will bless you. My legs got all tingly. I'm like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
All right, Maddy.
Pretty excited. So before we close, is there any message you would like to share with our listeners that you felt like we didn't touch upon today, or just any last words to share?
We've touched on it in a variety of ways, but the word spells, what you just mentioned, and the power of the word, the power of the word. Words are vibration, and thought is a thing. It's a palpable energy. And so to really have an awareness in your day of how you're directing your thoughts, your vibrations, right? Sound and thought. Sound is a carrier wave for consciousness. So what energy do you want to emit? And again, don't be hard on yourself if there is a negative thought, right? Because you're kind of going the wrong direction. You're going to be adding fuel to that. But just to notice that, and even one change a day of, no, I'm going to turn that into a positive. I'm going to redirect myself and my focus on what can I do in the moment to bring more positive energy, more positive thought, more positive vibration. It will multiply for you the more often you do that, right? That's the repatterning that we all need to do from this lifetime and probably
Yep.
previous lifetimes. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us.
A pleasure. Thank you so much. I really resonate with you both. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
No, we just appreciate having you and having, I know Madeline will feel the same way, having someone else that understands going to the root cause. You know, it's like really going to that root cause, because you can treat things. I saw this years ago with Reiki. You know, I saw it with myself. I had this Reiki session and I felt so amazing afterwards, but I was still perpetuating with these negative thoughts and this belief system that was not serving me, and had unresolved wounds. And it was like, oh, well, I just had to keep going to get balanced. But it's not until we address the underlying cause and really look at those limiting beliefs and whatever's stored in the body, to acknowledge it and release it, because we always garner the wisdom. It's like you get the wisdom afterwards. After the release, you have an even bigger insight on, oh, wow, I see what you know, why I experienced that and what gift that's given me.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think more and more people are open to that. It seems like, right, that the physical symptom is the end result of perhaps something that's happened emotionally or that's held in the field, the energy field. It just seems like, and maybe it's because we're all involved in this work, but it does seem like there's more awareness that many of these modalities we can't really call woo-woo anymore. So I have great hope. I have great hope for humanity. I really do.
Yeah, me too.
We're coming into alignment.
Yes.
More and more. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Natalie Brown. Where can people find you? We'll have all that information at the bottom, but please speak it.
Sure. Yeah, I guess my website's the best way to find me, soundshealstudio.com. It has my offerings both online and in person, both sessions, events, trainings, and also my podcast, Sounds Heal Podcast, and blog and all kinds of other information.
That's beautiful.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Natalie, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you both
Let's
so
stay
very much.
connected. All righty. Ciao. Thank you.